Former Nigerian military president Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, IBB, officially launched his memoir, A Journey in Service in Abuja, drawing past and present leaders who reflected on his legacy and the democracy in West Africa. The event, which held at the Transcorp Hilton Hotel, Abuja, also attracted former presidents, military leaders, and statesmen from Nigeria and beyond. Discussions ranged from Babangida's contributions to Nigeria's political history to concourse over coups in the region. At the lunch, IBB opened up on the nation's adjudged freest and fairest June 12 election, admitting and taking responsibility for all that happened under his 8-year rule. Resurfacing of the June 12 issue has triggered concerns and made headlines on Nigeria's media outfits. How then do Nigerian leaders and the electorate see these as it concerns the Nigerian democracy? This and more will form the crux of the discussion on today's program. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ikaria Clinton, and welcome to Nigeria Today. With me in the studio for the conversation is Abdul Abiola. He's the president, MKO Abiola Center for Youth and Sports Development in Africa, and also son of MKO Abiola. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you for having me.
Also with us here for this conversation tonight is Ahmed Abubakar Tanimu. He's a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst. It's good to have you in Nigeria
Thank
today.
you for having me.
Also with us is Dr. Ibrahim Modibo. He's a public affairs analyst. It's good to have you on the program, Doctor.
Good evening, Nigerians. Thank you. Thank you.
So I will start with you, Abdul. The confession, or will I say what the former president said about the MKO Abiola's the election that took place in 1993, the June 12, the popular June 12. What do you feel about his his coming out to say he regrets everything, every decision that he took within that period?
Okay, so it's something that we need to put in the proper context. So I think there were two parts to his statement. He first of all acknowledged that Abiola had actually won the 1993 elections. That part for me was more something that I already knew to be true, even at the age of 8 during the 1993 elections. So that's one part. But then the second part of his message was where he expressed remorse and also even opined to the idea that if he had a chance to do it over again, he would take a different course of action. I think that in itself was what I held on to. I believe that it's human to err, and in the lives of mankind, it's important that we understand that when we do make some mistakes, it's good to acknowledge the mistakes we make and seek forgiveness. And I think that's what he was able to do. And for me, knowing that this has come 32 years after the so-called event itself, I just look at it as, it puts that matter to rest. And I think that is something that is important, because I'm sure most Nigerians who were around at the time knew that the June 12 elections were free and fair and Abiola had won, but there were still some people that were on the fence. So this has actually allayed everybody's, he was never announced the president, but at least from now, we've seen the results released in his book would, I think, put that issue to rest. And I think it could start a process of healing, and that's what I've focused on. I don't try to, I acknowledge the past, I don't dwell on it, but I focus more on using this energy and towards shaping a future that we can all be proud of, and my father as well.
Thank you very much. Now, Tanimu, talk to us. What is your perception of this, will I say, confession?
For me, I want to celebrate ordinarily, but we need to do more. If mistakes were made, for you to be able to correct the mistakes, you need to be more open. In this sense, we want the system and the structures to be enhanced. If you notice, the election was almost concluded. It's just the announcement that was delayed. And before you know it, the whole processes were triggered. There are key actors, key players that truncated the processes. We are not calling for their for punishment to be meted on them, but we want to know the role individuals played. He is in a better position to specifically mention names and actually attribute the blame on individual key players, so that we will now know that we need to improve our system and our structures. INEC, for now, a lot of people keep making an accusation on INEC, but you see, if we know what has happened in the past, we're able to correct what we have in the present. The waste report has not been implemented. And if you look at it, it has a direct correlation with what has happened. We've had an election, it was inconclusive, and we know what followed through. So what we expected more. The healing process has started, but more need to be done. We need to look at the role played by individuals. We need to look at the role institution of state. I'm talking about the judiciary. You recall some people went to court, obtained an order. So there are so many roles. Even though we all witnessed it. We saw what happened. This is the most freest and fairest election we've seen. So what happened then? We don't want a reoccurrence. We want our systems to be improved, and we believe that the healing process has started. But if we say more, more will equally be done.
Okay, Dr. Modibo, Abdul here has said that this is kind of a healing process, and of course it brings a closure to the whole issues surrounding the June 12th saga, and that Tanebu is saying we need more. So what is your perception about this whole issue?
Well, thank you, UK, for inviting me this evening to talk on the Abiola issue. I have been almost a permanent member discussing about Abiola issue for a very long time, along with his daughter, who is now a special assistant to the president, and Senator Dr. Zungina. Now, as a backgrounder, it will be very important for us to look at the issues from a very proper perspective in Kenya. This is a book which contains 398 pages, published by Bookcraft, whose foreword was made by General Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, former head of state, and it contains 13 chapters with 5 parts, part 1 to 5. And these parts incorporate his early childhood, educational background, coming into the army, and then moving in, his political, and then the coup aspirations, his relationship with his friend, Bata, whom he executed, quote unquote, and then coming to the Abiola saga. His solid achievements too, in terms of designing the architectural administration of governance was also highlighted. Before coming here, I read the book, 398 pages. Since yesterday, I was really interested because of the lucidity of English. If you look at the conveyance of the messages were overwhelming. He had been able to come out frankly to tell Nigerians that, look, under the purview of my administration, these are the things that has happened. And I'm so happy, so glad that he has been able to talk on the issue of June 12th, of which almost everybody, even the blind, could see, and even the deaf could hear, that Chief MKO Abiola of blessed memory won that election. I was a correspondent, I was a reporter in 1993, and I really covered that election. It was one of the most freest and fairest elections in the history of sub-Saharan Africa. And therefore, Abiola, whether we like it or not, he had a party and also a formidable political structure that was based on ideology. He campaigned almost everywhere to nooks and crannies of this country. He had principles and also was a man of generosity, whose decision to come into governance was based on his patriotic desire to positively impact on the lives of the ordinary Nigerian. Abiola was an international figure. If you look at, he was never destabilized. He didn't see himself as a robber man. He didn't see himself as a Fulani man a Hausa man, a Tiv man, he is almost everywhere. He has touched lives in every segment of this country, and therefore that drew enormous goodwill for him. That is why, unlike today, where people will start talking of Muslim ticket and what have you, he had a Muslim ticket. And at that point in time, he overwhelmingly went into that election and won landslide with over 8 million votes as against Bashir Tofa's 5.1 million. Therefore, if you look at the way and manner Abiola won, he won in 20 out of 31 states, meeting all the criteria needed in terms of aggregation, in terms of the numbers, people that voted, and also the geographical spread. And therefore, to me, it is an arena of life that former president, quote unquote, of military, Babangida, will come and annul or accept the annulling of this election without giving us concrete results. I strongly believe that he has not been able to tell us the last truth. Looking at the issue of him transferring the blame, of which he accepted responsibility, but transferring the blame to General Abacha and Dogoyaro, I think these people are dead and they cannot rise from the grave to defend themselves. To me, it was a collective responsibility. He should have told us the whole truth by trying to say that, look, this is a collective responsibility, I was also part of it. But for him to hide under the banner of his finger, to tell us that it's only these people that should blame, I think is the greatest travesty of justice, and I think this.
But again, he said, I take responsibility for every decision. That also, it takes care of what you're talking about now, Dr. Modibo.
If he says he takes responsibility, but in the book, go to the book. I read it in chapter 12 of the book. He dealt with the Abiola issue.
Right now we're talking about what he said.
Yes, and that's what I'm telling you. I'm giving you a factual presentation of what he wrote, based on the intellectual understanding or the purview of what he has written. Now, as at that point in time, when this election was to be annulled by Association of Better Nigerians for Better Nigeria under Nzeribe, when they went to court on Thursday, on 10th of June, why on 11th there was a court process by Justice Ikpeme who ruled that election should hold. But on the 11th, there was also a counter from Lagos High Court, which is a coordinate conjunct.
Dr. Modibo, I have to stop you here so that.
So to me, there's a gap.
We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you, Dr. Modibo. Thank you very much. Now, Abdul, talk to us. How can Nigerians remember, let me say your father now, MKO?
Well, if we go according to what the late General had put in his memoirs, he was actually the president-elect of the country. So he ceased to be my father at that moment and became the father of the nation. So your father as well. Like I said, this is 32 years after. Abiola was a messenger, but the people were the ones who gave him that mandate, So we look at Abiola as the figurehead, but there were people who believed and came out to support his agenda and his vision for a better Nigeria. I think we have to understand that the messenger is one thing and the message is another thing. I think the message is still an enduring one, and it's something that we have to understand that is our collective responsibility to see that better Nigeria to fruition. So when I spoke about accepting what was said by the former head of state, I'm of that impression that Nigeria needs to move forward, and we need to do it in a way that we understand that we are our brother's keepers and we are all one. And I can understand the fact that we want to get to the nooks and crannies of what had happened, in the past. But I think it's good for the recognition to find out. But I don't think we should dwell on the past because, like I said, the future is way brighter. And if we can, channel our energy towards forging a lasting democratic journey for this country, something that is truly a democratic institution where people are engaged with the system and they're able to see governments, they see the dividends of democracy, then I think we are going in a long way of even honoring the Abiola. Abiola did not necessarily wasn't going to fix Nigeria, but he was going to get the Nigerians to see that within ourselves we can fix the country. So I think once we start to believe in ourselves and look forward to a brighter future, I think it might be better for not my generation, but for the generations of the young ones that are yet to, to be to ascend to leadership positions. I think that's where I would focus my agenda. Because if I were to talk about the past, you would talk about my father, who was the symbol of hope. What about Halaja Kudurat Abiola, my mother, who I would say she was the embodiment of courage. A woman at that time facing the military. She subsequently lost her life. So I look at it and I acknowledge the fact that it happened, but I don't dwell on it because I know that we're not there yet. We're not at that promised land. We're not at the place where my father envisioned for the country.
Thank you very much. I think I like that spirit. Now, Tanimu, of course, we are moving ahead. Now, in what ways? Because that election was adjudged the freest and the fairest election. Of course, all the three of my guests today agree to that fact. Absolutely. That it was the freest and the fairest. Even the former president himself that made this revelation also said that it was the freest and the fairest election that we ever saw in Nigeria. Now, in what ways can future election reflect the spirit of the June 12th? Ensuring we have a free, fair, credible election.
Very simple. The entirety of OAS committee's report should be implemented. INEC chairman should be, anybody that will head INEC should be truly independent. We are talking of electronic transmission of results. We are talking of results should be declared at each polling unit and it should be made known to the public. We are talking of stations like NTA having equipment in every polling station. We can do it with our phones, with CCTV camera. Let's see the election of June 12th was a form of option A4 where you queue up, they count the number of people. So it is not rocket science. We can have free and fair election in Nigeria, and if we do that, we are now honoring the legacy of MKO, and it's very easy to do.
Now back to you, Dr. Modibo. Now, in that book launch, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu felt proud of that revelation and promising to do his best on taking decisions as it affects the interests of the nation. Can you tell us what you perceive from these comments from our president?
Okay, if you look at the aspect of nationalism, national consciousness, and also the spirit under which all of these former heads of state gathered, I've never seen any occasion in this Abuja for my almost over 30 years here, my presence in this city. I've never seen any one occasion that drew the creme de la creme of Nigerian society like what happened yesterday. Simply because of MKO Abiola, let me tell you, for one good reason. You see, they knew that there would be an expose as to what actually happened and transpired in that book pertaining to June 12th. You see, democracy is very fundamental. I will most guard it jealously. Let us look at the issues that even led to the truncation of June 12th. The issue of this court system in Nigeria. You see, it's lamentable. It is song of lamentation, most appropriate glories and perverted ancestry. To see that our court system seems to truncate democracy. Look at what happened with Justice Bassey. Pay me what I told you. She went in the night, dead of the night, gave judgment that June 12th, that there should be no election on June 10th. And the next day, there was a court of coordinate jurisdiction in Lagos. They issued a statement saying that this election should move on. Now, the election went on, and after that, there was this abracadabra, and then the June 12th, after, all the results were collected, free and fair, and then they've truncated democracy. It's a lesson that we should not toy with democracy. We should leave democracy the way it is and let it be a game of numbers, meeting the yearnings and aspirations of our constitutional provision in trying to look at the issues of spread and what have you, of which are all met. Therefore, As a Nigerian, I want to believe that what happened yesterday was a wonderful thing. While we've seen people come to celebrate IBB, of course, is the figurehead. But then we are very happy that this announcement that has to do with Abiola has come to the fore. What I would suggest, Mr. President, is in the spirit of the season, in the spirit of what happened yesterday, the Abiola family must be compensated adequately. Abiola must be given that honor, although President Muhammadu Buhari did restore, that distance for him, quote and unquote. But I think it is high time for us to put into consideration substantial things that will have to do with structures, if there are structures and this thing, to conform with his presidential status as a president of this country. He must be honored. And also compensation must be given to his family adequately to make sure that, look, these kind of things do not happen in due course. Because if we allow things like this to happen, next time, all this ascension of better Nigeria, they can also crop up during elections. And it will give us that latitude of going back to those days of darkness where some few disgruntled people, in close collaboration with those that have money or those that have power, to trunkle our democracy. God forbid Nigeria is on the path of democracy. May it be so.
Thank you very much. Now, before I come to Abdul, now, Tanimu, now, for the former, military president to come out to say, I take responsibility. No, I want you to, talk to us about this issue. What does this tell about, his personality? Because I would just say this is the first time somebody is doing something, leader will come out to say, okay, I take responsibility for this. I did this, I did that, and I take responsibility. What does this tell of this personality?
Knowing his personality, I would not want to attribute the names that he's well known for, but we all know, taking responsibility on one hand, and at the same time, putting the blame on his colleagues that are late, Abacha and Dogonyaru, and the others. It means for me, I don't think he has taken the responsibility to the fullest. Because if I'm taking responsibility, for me to be able to atone for whatever I must have done wrong, I will admit it wholeheartedly. Yes, I played this role, and as the commander-in-chief, you are the most powerful person after that nobody can cajole him into taking a decision that is not prepared.
But
President Goodluck Jonathan,
but we are looking for the way forward. Like Abdul here has said, okay, this is a healing process for us Nigerians. For him to have said this is like a closure. We are looking forward. So what's the way forward?
The way forward is to implement the Ways Committee fullest, as in all the recommendation. The INEC should be truly independent. Our elections should be very transparent. We should encourage citizen participation, not minority having government for the majority. And we should have a system where everybody will be actively participating in the electioneering processes. An election should be determined at the polling unit. We don't want our courts to be determining our leaders.
Okay, now Abdul, I want to get your parting words on this issue.
Okay. Well, in moving forward, I want people to understand that Abiola was just not a political leader. To me, he was my hero. He was somebody who had a lot of passion for the country. He had a lot of love for Nigerians. He had love for his family, and he really. One thing I also know about the late my late father, he didn't have a mean or a bad bone in his body. Even when they were carrying him to jail, he said, Babangida is my friend. He felt that, as like I said, it's human to error. You can make mistakes, and he thought that with time, sanity will prevail and people would see the light. And yes, it's taken us this long. I for one think that Nigeria is such a precious place that we're in a rush to get to that promised land. The beauty of this country, like I said, is not in our wealth or our natural resources, but it's in our human capital. So what had happened in that time, and it was a very traumatic era for everybody that was involved, the Nigerian people, the family. But like I said, we're not going to move on if we keep on picking on old wounds. I think we should let it heal, and as we go along, like I'm not saying that it's gone, but as we go along, we should understand that our better days are ahead of us.
Thank you very much. That was Abdul Abiola. He's the president, MKO Abiola Center for Youth and Sports Development in Africa, and also son of MKO Abiola. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And we also had Dr. Ibrahim Bodibo, a public affairs analyst. Doctor, thank you so much for coming on the program.
No parting shot.
And also, we had Ahmed Abubakar Tanimu, a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst. Ahmed, thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts with us. And thank you for being part of the program. I am Victoria Clinton. Goodbye.